Hello VWR family and welcome back. If you're visiting for the first time, my name is Carissa. Consider becoming one of our diamonds. All you have to do is subscribe and push the notification bell so that you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Today is the day that we start the 4c's Defining Moments series. It's where myself or a guest share real life defining moments where we were either chosen, cultivated, or changed through Christ. The goal is to encourage you and to bring God the glory at the same time. So I wanted to kickstart this series with how I came to know Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior, just to kind of start at the beginning and then we'll go from there. So I have my notes here, so if I'm looking down, that's why. I came to know Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior in 2004-2005, my senior year of high school. It was one of the worst years of my life. I had dealt with depression, I dealt with suicidal thoughts, I dealt with eating disorder, I dealt with losing a friend to gun violence. I was rebellious, I was trying to find love in the wrong places. I was homeless for a little bit, jumping from house to house. But in the end, I ended up finding Jesus, and I want to share that with you guys. I was going through some difficulties with my mom, and I was being really rebellious with her, and a lot of it stemmed back to me not trusting my mom. I was molested, and the person who molested me, she was in a relationship with, and she let that person go. But the thing that got me and kind of turned me away from her was whenever she allowed that person to come back in the home that we were in. And it caused a lot of drama and just mistrust and everything for me. I can't really speak for her, but that's kind of where it started at for me. And I just didn't trust my mom, and I didn't like my mom. And so I went through a whole lot of rebellion towards her. In the end, that caused me to pretty much get kicked out of the house. So I ended up from there. At the time, I was dating someone, and they told me that I could stay at their grandmother's house. She was nice. I stayed there, but I felt like I needed to get out of there because she was an elderly woman, and I wasn't sure if she was going to like pass away. I really felt like she was going to pass away while I was there. Because she was on oxygen and she was smoking, and I was like, that's not a good combination. I don't want to blow up in here. I don't know what's going on. But I ended up from there going with the older friend. I believe at that time she was in her 20s, mid-20s or so. And I linked up with her, stayed with her and her son, and she partied and stuff. And you know, I was kind of like out there too, because I wasn't going to church really like that. I would go a little bit with my grandma when I was younger, so I knew about church and God and everything like that, but I didn't have a personal relationship with him. It's one thing to know God, and then one thing to know of him. I stayed with her, and she wanted to go to church one day, and I was thinking, I can't believe she want to go to church, but you know, okay, I'll just lay low and get in the back of the church. Like, you know, most people who don't want to be there are in the back of the church most of the time. Not all the time. If you can't find a seat, then you up front. But anyway, so I went through the service with her, and she wanted to speak to the lady there, and who was the pastor. And her name was Pastor Annie George. She began to speak to her, but what happened is she saw me sitting down while she was talking to her. She said, "Hey, do you do hair?" And at the time, I was like in high school, and I didn't do hair. I didn't do anything. I was just going to school, barely making it, you know, had my head barely above water. I was not thinking about nobody's hair at that time. So I told her no, but I said, you know what? She does hair. Maybe you're thinking about her. And she was like, no, God told me that you're doing hair. And I said, no, ma'am, I don't do hair like that. And so she said, yes, you do. Maybe I'll get you to do my hair one day. And I was looking at her like, what is going on? I just told her I don't do hair. She said, oh, wow, I see you doing, making church signs. And I was like, church signs. Okay. Then she said, I see you doing media. And that just threw me for a loop. And she saw me working with kids also. And I said, that's funny because my senior project is on early childhood education because I love children. What's funny now, hindsight, now that I look over my life, I've done hair. I didn't go to school for cosmetology or anything like that, but I do hair like on the side for friends and family. I ended up for our church making the graphics for the sign, like the church, the new Oasis sign. I guess I'll show you guys over here what it looks like. And I've done some graphic designing, just playing with it, just something that I'm learning, you know, and I've done one for my husband and stuff like that, little logos and stuff. So I've done that. And then now currently I'm working with media with the church that I'm at and through YouTube and just learning it. I also started Polymath Media Productions. So I'm trying to build that up, and I have my photography on it, which is Polymath Photography. Now, one thing I'll say too, she ended up passing away a few years ago. So she was not able to see a lot of this stuff come to fruition, but I really wish that I could share this stuff with her because it's amazing like how accurate she was. And I'm amazed. I really wish she could have been like a mentor to me. But anyway, so moving on past that, I ended up going to church again with my friend, which was her actual church, which is Salvation and Deliverance in Leland, North Carolina. And the pastor there is Pastor Richburg. So I met him. I went a couple of Sundays, and this one Sunday I just felt like God really choosing me, so to speak. I felt drawn to go up there because normally I would not go. I'd just be kind of like in the back, like, yeah, whatever, you know, just mad at everything in the world and just quiet. I was crying and weeping. I felt like a tug on my heart, and I went up there and I gave my life to the Lord. Now, I can't sit here and say, oh, everything was peaches and cream after that, because it wasn't. It took time for me to develop, you know, in my walk, trying to find my place, trying to find like who I was, and, you know, I just didn't know. And I'll say this too, like after I got saved, I left her house and ended up going to Pastor Richburg's house with his wife, and I stayed there for like a week or so, long enough for me to go to my prom and everything. And then they got it to where I could go live with my dad, who ended up living in Leland at the time as well. That didn't work out with my dad, so I ended up leaving there and going back to my mom. I'm telling you, when I stayed with my dad, I would have to walk to school like 5 o'clock in the morning just to make it there in time, because my stepmom would have to drive me across the bridge, which it's a long way, guys. I know some of you won't know the distance, but it's a long way to come from the country into town. And I would go to a friend's house, and I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I go to my boyfriend's house and my stepmama didn't know about it, but now she know. But I would go there, and from there I would walk all the way to school. It was a long way to walk. So it was a lot, and I was going through a whole lot. It's a lot. It's a mess. I was a mess, a hot mess. But anyway, so I ended up being at my mom's house again, and I fell into this deep depression. I ended up like just wanting help. I just had this sense of I need something, and I didn't know what it was. Even though I accepted Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior, I still needed guidance at that time, and I didn't get it from my mom. I got a Bible from her, but it's one thing to give somebody a Bible, but it's another thing to read it with them. At that point, when you give someone a Bible like that, it's like, okay, all right, baby, here you go, and sit your baby outside on the porch and say, fend for yourself. So I can't blame my mom, because she did the best she could, and she didn't know either, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sure she read and everything, but for the most part, I never saw that, so I wasn't really, I don't know. And I got a King James version at that, so it was like, thou art, and it was hard. So fast forward, I ended up in the Oats. I came home, my mom going through a deep depression, was ready to end it all, needed help, took a knife, you know, and was ready just to end it. And my older brother was at the house at the time, and he was on the phone with my dad, and he started to tell my dad what I was doing, and we were both all crying, you know. So he put the phone in my ear and managed to take the knife out of my hand. My dad was crying like, Chris, what are you doing? You know, I love you and all that stuff. But it's like you get numb and you don't hear that. It's a lot of things that had occurred, you guys, that I'm kind of want to say for other story times, I guess. But it's just, it was a lot going on. I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to cry. Long story short, I ended up going to the Oats. My mom took me there, and I remember telling her that I just did not like her very much, and I knew that her putting me there was all that she knew to do to help me, and I'm glad she did. So I went in there, and I was thinking in my mind, like, you know, I hope there's nobody here that I know. And then I was like, all these crazy people, I need to get out of here. But the funny thing is, everybody else probably saying the same thing about me, you know. So here I am, 12th grade, my senior year, doing my senior project, and I'm in the Oats for a whole weekend. Well, while I was in there, I was like, you know what, I don't want to eat. I just want to sleep the whole time. And lo and behold, it was somebody in there that I knew who worked there. And I knew her because of my grandmother. And I got embarrassed immediately. But she came to me and she told me, she said, Carissa, you have to talk to people and you have to eat, because when you don't, it makes you look like there's something wrong with you, you know. And with you saying, I want to get out of here, everyone else in here is saying the exact same thing. So in my mind, it started clicking, like, I got to do something different, because I can't stay in here. I have a single project, I gotta graduate, I got a lot of stuff to do. So I started talking to people in there, and when I say Looney Tune bing wing wing, it was some Looney Tune bing wing wings in there, and to the point that one of them made me cry. So finally I got to see the doctor, and he was saying, like, was my attempt a cry for help? And I said, yeah, it was. I have a lot going on. Talked about my friend, and you know how I have senior projects, just a lot of stress. Pretty much saying anything I could do to get out of there. And I got out, and I ended up starting to go to church with my now husband David. We eventually ended up dating and stuff like that, and now we're married. One thing that I hope that this story shows is that even though I was a hot mess, God chose me, and in turn I chose him. Everything didn't go smoothly at first, or it was peaches and cream, but eventually I found my way, and there were, yes, bumps along the way. And I hope that you guys can take something from my story and apply it to yourself, because God's power works best in weakness. And I'll tell you, I have had to become broken before the Lord and really say, Lord, I'm broken before you, and I give you my life, I give you my thoughts, whatever you want to use, I give you my voice. So I hope that this video is helpful for you guys, or that you are encouraged by it. I give God all the glory, and I will catch you guys next time. So if no one else tells you, you'll hear it from me. You're valuable, you have worth, and you're a rarity.